Greetings, and welcome to a brand new episode of Out the Box Talks. I am your host, Cril. I'm so excited to be back for another show. This is episode 89. Big ups to all of our viewers, all of our listeners, all of the supporters of Out the Box, man. I thank y'all so much. Y'all been making me feel so good lately, man. I've been getting a lot of love, and I just really appreciate it. Shout out to the folks who support us via the Patreon page as well as the merch page. You know, we've been getting people supporting via the merch page on Big Cartel. And also shout out to anyone who's ever, supported in any form. Like it really means a lot. And it's dope to kind of see the audience and the support growing. So I have a dope episode for y'all today. I'm looking forward to building with this brother tonight. It's definitely a pleasure to have him on the platform. But before I bring him in, I just want to shout out a few things out the box related. Remember, you can go to our website, outtheboxmedia.com, where you can find all of our previous episodes. I've done about over 150 artist interviews in the last 13 years. And it probably should have been a lot more than that, but I did take sort of like a break, for some years. Things changed, but I'm back and ready. And it's been like this for the last year or so. So I'm excited to continue the process of putting out dope interviews with Out the Box. Another thing I want to mention that I didn't get a chance to mention the last show is I put out my very first book, and it's actually a book that's focused on giving support to those that are interested in creating interview podcasts, right? So, some of y'all listening know that I've been doing this for the last 13 years. Some of y'all might know of me just for the last couple of years. Either way, like, I've gotten a lot of recognition and a lot of support for what I do. And just looking back at all the experiences I've been through, from the challenges to the successes, I thought it was dope to just pen something together that would be helpful to those out there that might want to start their own interview podcast and specifically, doing interviews. So that book is now available on Amazon.com as an ebook. It will be coming as a print book in the future, but, share it if you feel like it's something you could gain. Definitely feel encouraged to pick it up. And if it's something you feel someone else could benefit from, feel free to share the link with others. But I just wanted to plug that and big that up, because that was a big step for me. It took a while to get that out, and I'm glad that it's out in the atmosphere for people to gain, learn, and be inspired from. So also what I want to note is the merch page is on Big Cartel, outtheboxmedia.big cartel. So that's where you can find like Out the Box merch, like this Out the Box TV snapback, as well as, t-shirts and hoodies. We got those Emcee R.A.P hoodies and t-shirts available on the site as well. Also, if you would like to donate to Out the Box, you can send donations to PayPal, paypal.me/outtheboxmedia, or you can send it to our Cash App, which is #OutTheBoxRep, right? So whichever, platform works best for you, you can send it there. Any amount is appreciated. So don't feel like, if you send me $2, I'm gonna be mad. Like, whatever you can send is appreciated, right? And like I said, we got the Patreon page where you can find access to exclusive interviews that are only available to Patreon. So I made it a purpose to make sure that these episodes weren't available to the general public. So shout out to you if you've become a Patreon supporter. And I hope that the interviews that are up there are inspirational to you and you enjoy what you have to experience there. Also, for those that may not know, let's say you're watching this episode on YouTube. Well, first and foremost, if you're watching it on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, and so that you can get those notifications with YouTube. But also, if you're watching on YouTube, I do want to let you know that we do offer the podcast audio as a high quality audio podcast on platforms like Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. So you can also search for Out the Box Talks there and find the podcast there. All right. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. Like I said, the website is outtheboxmedia.com. That's a really also another dope way to keep connected. So you don't have to become a Patreon subscriber to keep connected. You could also just subscribe for free on outtheboxmedia.com by just clicking on the subscribe tab and just signing up via our email list. All right. So like I said, man, we got a dope new show for you today. As usual, I ain't gonna let y'all down. I got an artist that I've been hearing about for a little while now. And let me first do this. Let me shout out to Salmon on Twitter, who actually encouraged me to do this interview. So big ups to you, Salmon. I'm going to give you your props, man. Thank you. And thank you for, supporting and rocking with Out the Box. But I've been hearing about him, and also through Rap Ferreira, who has the Ruby Yacht Poet Collective, right? So we're going to talk about that as well today. And we're going to talk about what he has to offer lyrically, especially his new album, Epic, right? Which just came out, I want to say like about a month or two ago, like in August. And it is definitely an intriguing experience. And you'll know what I'm talking about when you hear it. So we're going to build on that tonight. But I want to also shout out some of the work he's done in the past. He actually released his first project entitled Raw Navel in 2017. He dropped a project called Born on the Stairs in 2018. And then in 2020, he also released a project called Giraffe Track, then went on to release a project earlier this year, February, called Pink Pound. And Epic is now available as of August of this year. So we're going to mainly talk about this Epic project, but we're going to also give him some opportunity to talk about his humble beginnings as an artist, as an MC. So without further ado, I want to welcome to our Out the Box Talks viewing and listening audience for episode 89. My brother hailing from Massachusetts, the MC, the Ruby Yacht Poet member himself, my brother, Pink Navel. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Yo, thanks for having me.
Indeed. What's good? What's good, Navel? How are you?
I'm good. Been super lax lately, not doing too much, so it's been good.
Indeed, indeed. So it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Mm-hmm.
We got a lot to talk about, specifically this new album. But before we get into that, I want you to give the audience out there, our viewers and our listeners, a little insight into how your love for emceeing first originated. Like, where did the inspiration all begin?
Wow. So my story is kind of interesting, I guess. My dad is a drummer, so rhythm has always been something that's been, my blood, and something that I was around a lot. Rhythm, just that concept, not even rap music itself, because my dad was more of like a rocker dude. He liked like stadium rock. But music and this idea of like being a musician was always something that was very treated as a realistic path at all times. And I guess, around 13, 14, 15 years old, when you start to develop your own musical interests and your own tastes, I sort of began to gravitate towards weirder rap music that I could find on the internet. And I've always sort of identified as a very weird person. So when I started to find these rappers who were rapping about things that I did not know people rapped about, I was like, wow, like that's extremely empowering. Like I want to do that too, you know, and really began to study that realm very closely for a while.
Indeed. When you say things that you weren't familiar with rappers rapping about, what were some of those things?
You know, like Jordy LaForge and like um cartoons and, you know, like Adult Swim and just stuff that, yeah, stuff like that, the internet, you know, memes, video games, all stuff like that, you know. And I mean, I'm talking about, I'm 25 years old, so when I was like 13 and 14, so like, I don't know, like only a few years after, you know, Danger Mouse had came out. So like that's like a fresh idea.
Wow.
It's like, whoa, like, yeah, stuff like that.
Wow. Yeah, because I was gonna ask you, like, who was some of your early MC inspirations that was doing that made you feel like, you know what? It's actually safe. It's actually cool. I can rap about this stuff and get, you know, get a recognition for it and get an audience that's at least into it, you know?
Yeah, definitely Doom, you know. Doom is the ultimate of that. Like just rapping about, like, Doom as a whole song that's like an alternate theme song to Aqua Teen, you know, like it stuff like that. And then also shout out my dog Rap Ferreira. He used to go by Milo, and I discovered his music on the internet too. And, you know, same bag, just hearing like all these different interesting references and topics that I wasn't hearing other places, you know, from, you know, yeah, I was just not hearing them, period, from anywhere else. So yeah, those two.
Wow. It's dope that you mentioned, you know, of course, Rap Ferreira. And I think I first recognized you on the Bob Son album, you know, like on the first track. Like, tell me about how you got connected with Rap Ferreira and became a part of this whole Ruby Yacht Poet crew.
Yeah, I was just a student of the game, really interested in his work and that sort of genre of rap music. And he, it must have been 2013 when he came out to Boston to play a show for the first time. And it was the day before my junior year of high school. And I went out to the show, and there's like, you know, not that many people there. So after the gig, we were just like chatting, and I like followed them to where they were parked in their car. And I was just chatting with all of them, asking Rory all these questions, you know, like, what's the box that you use? And like, how do you do this? And how do you get a show like this? And, you know, like all those kind of questions, you know what I mean? And he is just the whole time super nice and super graceful. And over the years, we developed a relationship on the internet. And every time he'd play in my area, I'd come out, we'd chat, you know, and after a while, that just turned into me actually beginning to rap myself. And he just saw that on the internet and would just, you know, see what I was posting. I was doing my thing, and he would see that. And in 2018, I got invited to join the crew. And I was taking a break from college, and I just decided to not go back to college. And I moved to Maine to join the Ruby Yacht. And I was in Maine for 3 years with the crew doing work and touring the whole country and making records and stuff. And then now I just moved back. So now I'm in I'm beginning this new chapter, but still in Ruby Yacht as always, but that's how it started.
Wow. Shout out to Rory, man. Like I had a
Yeah.
pleasure talking with him earlier this year. Such a cool brother, man, and
Oh, yeah.
like dope brother all around, man. Can you talk to me about, like, for those that may not know, can you tell them like what is the function of the Ruby Yacht Collective?
Yeah. The Ruby Yacht is a family, a crew of musicians, like-minded individuals that all have a certain set of magical powers or skills. And we just all choose to use those skills in a way that synergizes with the others, you know? And I would say that all of us have been, um, we walk down the same road. We walk down this same path that may be more difficult than the others.
Mm,
Like we're not really here to play the game.
mm,
We're here to like live the life of like what it means to be an MC and be a musician and be an artist. And I think that's what binds us. Just this defiance of like the music industry and the system. And yeah, and just all of our different creative ways that we are able to skirt that industry when it tries to get its claws into us.
indeed, indeed. Can you talk about the meaning of the term Ruby Yacht? Like, how did he? Do you know how that term even came to be?
Not exactly. It was already formed like a few years before I joined,
Sure.
which is also funny because like when I began rapping, my initial goal, I was like, I'm gonna start rapping, I'm gonna get really good, and I'm gonna join Ruby Yacht. Like that was my whole
Wow.
plan. Yeah, that was my whole plan before I ever.
Like
Yeah,
level.
yeah, before I ever wrote a song. That's what I knew I wanted to do, and yeah, somehow I did it. So I don't really know, but no, yeah, but the crew was already something that was formed.
Sure.
Um, yeah, before I joined. Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool.
All right.
So, who are the members of Ruby Yacht?
So me, Rap Ferreira, Kayla Sheree, SB the Moore, Vast Nest, Rap Ferreira, Kenny Siegel, Eldon Summers, and there's plenty of folk that have their own little communicator. You know how in Teen Titans, where there's like the Teen Titans, and then they give the Teen Titan communicator to like a hero that they have like a one adventure with.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I have not watched Teen Titans like that. I'm pretty sure if I asked, one of my young,
Well, yeah. So
yeah.
they do that in Teen Titans. I was gonna say the analogy is that like there's
I'm
like
familiar with it though, no doubt. Yeah, but
hell
yeah.
yeah. There's plenty of folks that have their own like Ruby Yacht communicator.
I know exactly what you're talking about because it's kind of like Wu-Tang, right? You got the affiliates,
Right,
Yeah,
right,
I
right,
dig it. I dig it.
right.
Dope, dope. I'm glad you mentioned the names because some of those names I'm already familiar with. Obviously Rory and like SB the Moore on the album. Like those are some talented. That's a talented squad right there, and everybody has their own unique thing, which I think is what makes it dope as well. But I wanted you to kind of break that down so folks that might not know would know. So thanks for sharing that.
Oh yeah, I almost forgot my big bro Randall Bravery, OG member. Just had to get that in there. Yeah.
Indeed, indeed.
Yeah.
Now, the album that's out now, which we're going to talk about mainly today, is Epic. As I said earlier, it came out in August. What made you say, you know what? I'm going to just go ahead and call this thing Epic. Like, what made this album worthy of that title?
So, in 2019, I think, I put a record out called Andre's Gift and Omer Tower. And on that record's all about like the internet and internet culture and fun facts and all this stuff, data that you can find online that you can ascribe a certain meaning to, right? And I love to have little jokes, like fun little bits, and my whole joke for that album was like, oh, I'm going to reclaim the word epic. Like, because
Mm,
I felt like in modern internet culture, epic is a word that is used like facetiously. You know, like it's used to mock and it's used for irony. It's like, oh, like you're an epic gamer moment, like that kind of use of the phrase or like the word epic. And in my brain, like epic is a word that describes like history's most legendary poems, you know? And as a poet, I take that like seriously. It's like
right.
an epic is like a story and a tale, something that is scribed. And so I just wanted to like take that back to what it originally meant. So I began to use the word a lot, and it's like totally infected my vocabulary. I say it all the time. But I try to mean it genuinely. I try to say like that is epic. Like something really truly is epic. Like what you're doing with this show, like to me, that's epic because you're like connecting all these different musicians and stuff like that. So like um I began to do that and my fan base began to, follow along. I would post something on Instagram and get like 20 comments of people just saying epic, 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 like all the time. So I was like, okay, well, what if I, turn my fan base, what if I just call them the Epic Club? So now I like refer to them as the Epic Club, and we're like the club. I'm in the club. Anybody who wants to be in the club can be in the club. That's like the Epic Club. My website is called epicclub.dev, and that's where all my stuff is. And when COVID happened, I was doing these Twitch streams where I was making beats like on the fly. The way that I make beats is very fast. I just do it really quick and I move on to the next one. So I'd be making these quick little beats, and I had a Google Voice phone number that folks could call me on while I was making beats, and they would like talk to me, and I'd be like chopping a sample, and they'd be like talking about something. And yeah, it was just a cool little environment, and I would call those the Epic Club meetings. And after doing that for like 3 months, I had a pretty big collection of beats that I was like, you know what, I'm going to make this a record. And I chose 12 of the best beats that I had, or like 11 of the best beats that I had. And I wrote verses to them. And that became the album Epic, which is why I call it Epic, because it's from those meetings. Yeah, I know, a very long story, but that's how it all.
No, I appreciate that. It makes the understanding of the album much more meaningful now, because it's a very free flowing. It has a very freeness to it, like the album.
Well,
And
yeah,
as
I
you,
I did it in one take.
yes, I was gonna ask you about that. Like, I learned that you actually recorded it live in one take. Like, how did that idea even manifest into a reality for you?
Well, I thought that, if I made all these beats live in front of folks, it should only be it's only fitting if I record the record live in the same way.
Got it. Got
Right.
it. Yeah, that's dope, man. And I'm glad you mentioned that you made these beats, because I was gonna ask you about that. Like, what came first? Because I know you said you grew up in a musical family with your dad being a musician. Like, did you start out doing beats, or was it the MCing that came first?
So I was writing a lot of slam poetry. So I guess like slam poetry was the first thing that I was really about, you know? And then I was playing in like punk rock bands where I would be like the singer. So I would like yell and like write like kind of poetry that would go to like the punk rock, emo music sounding stuff. And that's kind of what I did for like a couple of years, maybe 3 years while I was in high school. And then um I guess I just, I met Rory, so then that happened, and then I began to study on how I can make beats, and I began to like acquire equipment. So in that case, the beats came first because I would make these beats, and I was trying to spit like my old style slam poetry over it. It wasn't really fitting, and then I began to sort of develop my own flow and rap after that part, right?
Got it. Got it. Yeah, man. Your beats are definitely spectacular, and they have a lo-fi vibe to it. But I rock to it. It really,
Thank you.
yeah, it has that vibe to it, man. So you did a wonderful job with that. Now, as I said, the lyrics on the project sound like they're freestyle in the performance, right? But I'm learning that you actually wrote to them. Like, how did you write them in such a way that it sounded so like free, like free?
Mhm. Well, I feel like that kind of goes back to my approach for this album and how it has been different than some of my last records. Like you said earlier, I kind of put out one record a year, and that's kind of been the way that I've worked for 5 years now. And I would spend the whole year on one record, polishing and like refining one record. And for this one, I just wanted to really like shoot from the hip, you know, like I chose the beats and I spent 2 weeks where I would just sit with my 404 and like a little Bluetooth speaker on my coffee table and my notebook, and I would just pick a beat a day and write a verse to it, and then I'd just move on to the next one. I didn't polish them, I didn't do anything to them. I just let it go. And I said next one, you know? And I just did that until I felt like I was done.
Yeah, I get that sense that you didn't really try to polish up. You kind of just went with the first feeling, you know. So
Right.
it definitely comes across that way too. So the first song on the album is entitled XJ9, inspired by Jenny Wakeman of the animated series My Life as a Teenage Robot.
Yes.
You say on the very first line, your final evolution is a super boring person with a hurting to go ball and rock your dad's cap. Can you tell us the significance of that line and why you chose to start your first verse of the album with that?
Yeah, so the record I put out before that is like a EP called Pink Pound, and that was something I wrote pre-COVID. So Epic was like the first thing that I was releasing in with a post-COVID mindset, right? And so in over this couple years, I, from what I believe, have become an extremely boring person. I quit smoking. I don't do anything fun anymore. I just like hang out and think about things. Like I feel like I'm boring now. So my final evolution is just a super, like, I feel like I'm at my final evolution. I'm just this boring person who raps and like that's what I do. And then with a hurting to go bald and rock my dad's cap, I used to have a full head of locks, but I shaved the sides. And then after I shaved the sides, I was like, damn, I'm really gonna shave my whole shit off, because I found a bunch of my dad's old stuff, and he had this old school zigzag like cap, like with the zigzag logo embroidered on the front. And I was like, I'm trying to wear that. So that's basically what it is there's just this zigzag hat that I have that looks super fly and I want to wear it.
So dope, man.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you, do you think that it's the pandemic that made you feel like your life is now boring? Like, you think the pandemic, you know, with everybody kind of being inside, did that have an impact on your perspective of your life now being boring?
I guess so. Yeah. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know for sure. I think it kind of was the catalyst to it. You know what I mean? Like, because I still do exciting things. I play shows, I travel, I do things that are very exciting. But I think in my day to day, like I used to be somebody who would like, you know, wake up and smoke a spliff and like fucking, you know, write a rhyme right away and like do to me like things that are like now I'm like, oh, I can't even smoke a little bit or I go crazy. Like, like I don't know, like just stuff like that. Like, and with COVID and all this stuff, everything being a little more health conscious, I feel like that's what the catalyst was to all that. Like, um, so yeah, I feel like that's kind of where that stems from.
Yeah. And I just want to say, like, for the record, I don't think boring is such a bad thing in terms of
Right.
the perspective that you see it, because a lot of us have had to become used to boring, right? So
Yeah.
I get it. I get it. You know, I'm often looked at as a boring person too, in you know, in my circles and my family, you know, because I'm not into the, you know, the fun, I guess the things that people nowadays deem to be fun, you know. You know, I like to engage in things that stimulate thought, like, you know, MCs, you know,
Oh,
educated
yeah.
MCs. So yeah, I get it, man. I get it. So I wanted to also ask you about, yeah, a little bit more about the beats, because like I said, they have a very lo-fi vibe, but they're also really raw, and I like that combination. Can you talk to me about how, like, just walk me through how these particular beats were crafted for this epic album?
Yeah. So I have I use a few samplers and a looper pedal, and that's kind of how I get my stuff going. And I have this one sampler that is like a lo-fi, very like bit crushed piece of equipment that's actually like homemade from this like one person company. Shout out Dig Dug DIY because I used the whole thing on this record. So that sampler records all of the samples, all of like the like melodic samples, and that machine has an auto chop. So I'm able to just like chop that up into 4 pads really quick, and then that goes into my first SP404 where I keep all my drums. So I'm playing. So I'm like, I got like my sampler with the sample, and then it goes into the one with the drums, and then those two go into a looper. So I'm like looping up the drums, and then I loop into the sample, and then that's all I do. That's it. And then I just have that loop, and I record it into a second 404, and I use that 404's compressor. So I just put a compressor on it, and I record it as like one loop onto that 404, and that's it. I don't put it on my computer. I don't edit it. Nothing. I just leave it there, and that's what I use for the album.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let me just say this, like, you said that's it, but like that seemed like that was a process. And I'm just curious to know, like, how did you even come to that process?
It was a long time. I learned how to make beats on my computer, and I spent a lot of time and a lot of money like figuring out how I can create a workflow that makes sense to me in my brain that doesn't involve a computer. Because I would do like one thing on like my MIDI controller for like a beat on Ableton, and then I'd spend like 45 minutes just like clicking, clicking on things. Like I didn't like that. I wanted it to be more like musical. So I just began trying different things, and I'm a really big fan of Reggie Watts, and I like that style of music creation. But at the same time, I don't think I have the brain for that kind of like spontaneity. So I wanted to like take that concept and bring it into like a studio environment where I'm able to loop things up on the fly and kind of jam with things and move things fluidly with my equipment, but I'm still in a place where if I need to stop and start over or change something, that's still like part of it, and that's still okay.
Man, it's really dope that you were able to come to that sense of rhythm, like, you know, to really, that's what I would consider like honing your sound. And I'm pretty sure that this process is your unique process. Like, no one could say that. Maybe they might be inspired by it, but this is your thing, you know, like, so it's dope that it's just dope that you were able to be inspired by something else, but then create this producing process in a format that works for you, right? That satisfies you. So thanks for sharing that.
Oh, of course.
Dope, dope, dope. So I want to get into some of the songs on the album. The track I want to talk about next is DIY Twitter. which is a dope track.
Hell
It's
yeah.
one of them tracks that, like, I guess when I first started listening to the album, it took me a little while to get into it. And then, you know, when you listen some more times, you have certain tracks that kind of jump out at you. And that's one of them. That's one of them that really just like, oh, I like that. That's one of my favorites. So DIY Twitter, you have a line on there where you say, you're black, blackety black, and weird as hell too. The apple didn't fall at all. The carrot grew from dirty yard and had the gall to go and become you.
Yo, yeah.
Funny line. When you said the carrot had the gall, why'd you choose to equate yourself to a carrot growing out of dirt?
Honestly, because I feel like it's a lot of things, you know, like I feel like we are of the earth, we are of the soil, you know, and I know that like trees are also of the soil, but that whole allegory of like the apple falling from the tree and like being like the people that you come from, I think to me that evokes some sort of like higher lower dynamic, you know, but I feel like for me and for us and like where I come from and like my father as a musician and me, like we came from the mud, you know? Like, and then, you know, to have, you know, the gall to be someone that's so outlandish and so crazy and so weird, you know? Like that's to me that's like special, you know, it's like magical. I think it's less magical if I'm like an apple that's falling from, you know, from like the skies, you know, which is, you know, why I chose to word it like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like the lotus flower that kind of grows from, you know, like you said, the mud and the dirt and the swamp, you know. So yeah, I dig it. Or the rose that grew from the concrete.
Right, exactly.
Indeed. You were on it. You were on to the concept. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
So on the hook of that same song, DIY Twitter, you sing in a very freeing tone the words, "When I was all around, traveling with my crew, all I could really think was if I even had what it takes to get here, my dude."
Yo.
What would you say was at the core of inspiring those words?
That bit's all about like imposter syndrome, you know, and like I said, I had set out to join Ruby Yacht, and then all of a sudden I did, and I was on a tour throughout the entire West Coast of the United States with like, you know, 5 of my favorite musicians of all time in a van, you know, like, and it like it happened like very quickly. So that's really what that's about, you know, is like um kind of looking because with this like post-COVID perspective too of like I don't know when that's going to happen again. I
Mm.
don't know when that's going to happen again. So now I'm reflecting on what I spent that time thinking about. It's like, damn, we was on the road and all I could think about was, am I even supposed to be here? It's
Wow.
like I want to go back and you know recalibrate my mind on that a little bit, you know. So that's what that chorus is really about. Yeah.
Definitely, man. That's a great explanation. I want to also mention that, like, throughout the album, and I'm pretty sure, like, throughout some of your other music too, that freeing tone happens a lot, right? Where you kind of just belt off singing. Like, did that come from your rock background?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's you. That's like something that I see as unique to you. So I just kind of wanted to ask you about like where that came from, and like how do you know like at what point to go with that?
You know, like for a long time I totally agree. It's definitely like something that I believe is very unique in my work, and I like to take those two sides of my influence and try to like blend them together as much as I can. But with Epic I tried to sort of tone it down. So like I wanted the sound to be more of like a traditional rap record. So like comparatively to my other comparing Epic to my older music, I do that sort of singing a lot less than even on my last record, Draft Track. I do it like really consistently. And I think in terms of like when I know to do it, it's I don't know, you know, it's like I used to do this thing where I would rap the verse and then my ad libs would be all of that singing, where I'd record a second track and it would be the whole thing would be that yelling and that singing. So like sometimes it would go on for, you know, the entire track. And of course with Epic, I couldn't do ad libs because it was live. So I had to sort of pick and choose. But again, yeah, I was really trying to tone it down. So yeah, I don't know. I guess it kind of just comes natural, or just comes out of me when I feel, you know, it can be very much informed by like what I'm saying or the topic, or sometimes I feel like it's the more emo-y and introspective lyrics. Sometimes I will want to deliver them that way. And then when I'm doing something that's more like boastful or comedic, I want to do it, you know, a different way.
Got it. So the song, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, I think it's Tiguan.
Oh, Tiguan.
Okay, Tiguan. You referenced the Dragon Ball Z character Beerus.
Yeah.
Where you say you want to write a Lord Beerus light type poem, lay it onto a gold record. Tell us the significance of a Lord Beerus light type poem. Why you connect him in that idea of a poem?
I feel like for me it's kind of twofold, because I in my brain, like Dragon Ball Z is the most like universally referenced piece of media in terms of rappers. Like Dragon Ball Z and rap are like, you know, like this, like they're like best friends. So, and I never had my own DBZ bar. So like I knew I had to do something. I never had one. So I was like, I want to have one so bad. So there's that part of it. And then in my brain, choosing Beerus as like my character to reference and honor is all about this idea that like he is whimsy. You know, Beerus is like extremely powerful, and he could, like anybody who's not Goku, he could just like, and then they're gone forever. You know what I mean? But he just wants to eat like sweet snacks and hang out, and he doesn't really, you know, he can fight, but he's really just trying to like travel the universe and eat snacks, which to me is like pure whimsy. You know, it's like this search of joy. You know, and that's why I like him, and that's why I like that reference, because I feel like in terms of myself, I've in the past referred to myself as like a whimsy specialist. You know, I think I'm very youthful. I think I'm very like coy, and I like to be kind of silly, and especially with my rhymes, and I like to be sort of like childish in this sort of wise way, which I feel like Beerus really embodies.
Dope. Yeah, I thought it was dope how it's kind of like bringing Beerus to the poetry world, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, there's so many MCs now referencing Dragon Ball Z in their music. That actually is surprising to me, because like I said, I don't know of much of your work prior to this album, so I would have thought you've referenced Dragon Ball Z already. So props to you on getting your first Dragon Ball Z references.
For sure.
Dope. So as I casually listen to the album, a lot of the lyrics sound like they are sporadically put together, and there's a lot of random subjects you touch on throughout the project. But somehow it works with the cohesive sound and the vibe of the album. What is the message that you hope the overall lyrics on this album is able to deliver?
That's a difficult question, because one of the things that I was trying my best to not have end up being part of the album was like a cohesive theme. I had spent every one of my records before this has been what I would consider to be like a concept album.
You did mention that too.
Right. Yo,
Hard.
exactly. Yeah. So it's like every single one has a specific theme and a story, and it's all very tight and concise, and they all send these different messages, you know, like Raw Naval is me coming out as non-binary. Born on the Stairs is me dealing with, you know, those feelings, you know, navigating the rap world. Andre's Gift and Omer Tower is about how I grew up on the internet and how that shaped me into the person I am. You know, Giraffe Track is about from birth to what brought me, you know, my story basically from birth to bringing me to the rapper that I am today. And those all took a lot of time and effort and thinking and polishing and organizing and all this stuff. And when I made Epic, I was like, what if I just rapped for 30 minutes? I just rapped, and that's all I did. And so really that's what my goal was. So it's hard for me to like really pinpoint an exact kind of theme or idea, but I guess, you know, with my inclusion of an invocation for beginnings, I would say that my like hope for the record is that it would create some kind of energy in the listener to make them feel like they could do something as powerful as what I'm doing, you know?
Nah, that's great. And I think you could tell that the reason why I'm asking that question is because I think it's mission accomplished for you, because the whole reason why I'm asking that question is because it gives that vibe off, right? That you intended, where it's not like one particular subject, you know? I think the only thing that really is cohesive in terms of my listening experience is that raw lo-fi sound. And you know, I was telling someone the other day that when I first heard Mad Villain, I didn't get it. You know, I was like in college, you know, this is like 2003, you know, and it was not until like one day, maybe about a year or two after, I was sitting at home and I had my sketch pad because I draw, and I was listening to the music and I was sketching, doing my art. And that's when I got the album. But I never got it from the sense of, like, even to this day, that album doesn't have like a cohesive subject, you know. But I got it. And I feel like this album gives off that same kind of vibe. Like there's no like one particular subject that it's addressing, but you get it based on the vibe. And so I think mission accomplished with that. That's why I asked you to see what you could do to kind of tie it in. And that was a great answer too. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. No, yeah, definitely. Like even there's this old Scallops Hotel song where he spits, you know, the best rap songs aren't cohesive thematically. And that's like
that's another dope line that you also reference on the
yeah, I referenced that too. But I just like I love that idea that, you know, like it's enough to just be spitting in a fascinating way and you know, have that groove, and the mind is not cohesive. The mind is a teetering train, you know, like who knows what I'm thinking about next, you know, and especially like in this day and age when, you know, everything is just so crazy. I don't even know if I could have a focused thought at this like juncture in my life, you know.
Interesting, a reflection of some of what people are experiencing in the times.
Right.
So let's talk about the album cover. Is that you as a youth on the cover? Okay, talk to me about what's happening. Like, you know, the depiction on the album cover. What made you decide to go, you know, to decide on that image to represent the Epic album?
Because to me, I look at that image and I just laugh, and like I just think it's so funny. And that's really what it was. Is I just saw that. I was looking at photos of my mom, and I was like, that's hilarious. Like no t-shirt with the Joe boxers, like hanging out with the Vader mask on on the fatty tummy. I was like, that's hilarious. And really, to me, it's like the least cool image I could have picked. Like, it's so anti-cool, you know, like people be using photos of themselves and they look like all dramatic and cool and they're stunning, you know, all that kind of stuff. And it's just this picture of me with a plastic Darth Vader mask with the buttons on my bare belly. Like, to me, that just had me dying. And at the same time, it's like, you know, it evokes that idea of whimsy and just fun and childlike joy that I think has been the ethos of my whole career. So, yeah.
You know, I think you said it's the buttons, right? That's hanging.
Yeah.
It almost looks like a beat machine.
Yo, it does.
And I thought about that. I was like, yo, that looks like a beat machine. Like, it's kind of, you know, it's also playing into, you know, your production, you know, so that's dope.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think now that you explain it like that, it is epic. Like,
it's epic. Like, that's so epic that I did that. Like I don't know, I just find that funny. And the idea of like costume, and because on the vinyl, so the back cover of the vinyl is a picture of me dressed up as Barney, as like a toddler, and I'm like wearing a Barney costume. So it's like it has this whole theme of like costume and like and like in that way too, which I just find fascinating. That I chose those two images to go together, which is just a whole other thing. But
dope. Yeah, man. Like, it what makes it dope is kind of like you have the mask on, so you don't even know what your facial expression is, right?
No.
Chilling there, and it's like a kid wearing a Darth Vader mask, you know?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely. I think that was a good choice. Did you decide on the album cover after you made the music, or was that like, when did it come about?
Yeah, I decided on the cover afterwards, after everything was done, and I really didn't know what I was going to pick, to be honest. For a while, I thought I was going to pick this. I'm a really big fan of King of the Hill, like this is like one of my favorite shows of all time. And there's just this, for some reason, I had this screenshot of King of the Hill on my phone that's just like a hand ringing a doorbell. Like, it's just like the finger about to press the doorbell. And for a while, I thought that was going to be the cover, up until maybe like a couple days before this. I was supposed to send everything in or like get everything ready.
Wow.
And then I was just looking at pictures with my mom, and I was like, no, it's got to be this. So I just took a flick of it. And then, I mean, it's crazy. The one that I chose for the record is just a phone picture. I just took a picture of the picture with my phone. I didn't even scan it.
Right.
So if you look really hard, there's like a glare from my cell phone, like on the image.
Oh, yeah, I see it now. Yeah, I'm looking at it. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Wow, man, dope. So what would you say, because I know, as you mentioned, the album has like a lot of sporadic moments and subjects and stuff, but if you had to name it, like, what would you say are the most common subjects and themes that show up on the album that you were inspired to write about?
Really, I think the main one is frustration. You know, frustration with how the world has placed my career, frustration with the avenues at which I have access to achieve catharsis at this time, and just frustration with the music industry. Those are like, that's like, I think, something that comes up a lot. And then what I think comes with, in like the right hand, like that being in the left hand, in the right hand is my response to that, with just like, you know, a sort of whimsical haha, like, you're not gonna catch me, like, I'm super mad about this, but I'm never gonna let it kill me, you know, I'm never gonna let it like really like make me quit. So I just gotta like laugh it off and keep pushing. That's kind of like how I kind of view it. Is I'm like airing out some grievances, but I'm at the same time, you know, brushing them off my shoulder with a laugh.
Very well said. The album has some really funny and clever skits. How are you able to seek out such entertaining skits and sequence them in a seamless way on the album?
So that's honestly the part of the record that I'm most proud of, because so I found all of the audio clips on TikTok, and what I did is I just, you know how you can like TikToks and they're like collected and like your likes and you can scroll through them. I just scrolled through my likes for like 45 minutes and recorded that audio, and then I chopped that up. Yeah, I just like chopped that up and picked the best ones that I could find. And really, what's I'm so proud of, I feel like I have to share this because I'm so proud of it. I was launching all of the audio clips separate to the beats. So like I had 2 404s during like the live performance, and like 1 404 was just for the dialogue. And then it was just totally filled up with banks of dialogue. And I just decided where they were going to go and memorized it and practiced it for a month. And then I just was launching each phrase perfectly in the right time with the beats. And yeah, that's just how it went. Like I just did it.
You know, when you think about one take recording, I don't think people think so much of preparation for one take recording, right? It just kind of just happens. Like, how much would you say you prepared for the one take?
It was about a month. I finished the writing and I planned everything, and I set the date that I was going to perform it and record it. And that was about a month out. And every day I would just practice it all the way through a couple times, maybe like at least one time. There are sometimes where I do it like once, but if I had the time, I do it twice, you know? And I just did that as much as I could. I would like rap the songs in the shower. I recorded a version of it that's like a studio version that I recorded in my house, where I'd like bump that and listen to it and memorize it. And that's kind of what helped me figure out where all the dialogue was supposed to go. And yeah, I just knew it front to back the day that we were going to record it. The people that helped me do it, helped me film it and record it, they're like, let's do 2 takes for safety. But we used the first one. I didn't even use the second one. I was like, no, I want to use the first one.
First take always ends up being better anyway. So
yeah.
Word. So speaking of the skits, what would you say is the funniest skit you were able to put together for this album, just from your recollection, like your recollection?
I think my favorite personally, well, I have to give a shout out to Boxy, because I don't think there's any rapper who's ever put Boxy on their record. That's the girl who's like, my name is Boxy, I don't do drugs. No. She's like a classic meme from like, I don't know, maybe like 2007 or 8. And she made that video a long time ago. And then people on 4chan decided that like Boxy was the queen of 4chan. And she had no idea what that even was. Like, no idea what they were talking about. But like all of a sudden there was these like armies of people on 4chan like worshiping this like teen because she made a funny video. And so that's got to be one of my favorites, just because I don't think I've ever heard anybody reference Boxy or even, you know, acknowledge her existence on a rap album, period. But then also, all of the ones that relate to COVID. Like, I love that I started the record with, hey, Queen, she got the vaccine. Like, that's awesome to me. That's a rap song that this girl made on TikTok, and it's a whole rap song about getting a vaccine. And she's like banging on the table and like rapping, and it's so funny. And then also the one where that dude, I think his name is like New York Joe or something like that, but he has a TikTok and he makes a bunch of videos, and he's the guy that's like, you know why I'm wearing this mask? Because it annoys you every time I wear it. Like, that guy made me laugh so hard. He's awesome. He's awesome, yeah.
So let me just get this straight. there was no like you didn't research this stuff. You just kind of just let TikTok run and you recorded.
Yeah.
Yo, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, you did it in one take. You were able to, like you said, memorize it and just place it.
Mm-hmm.
That's dope, man.
Thank you.
That's dope.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's free. That's dope, man. Wow.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I mean, and I can say that because like it comes together well, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'll add on to another thing that makes it cohesive, even though I know you weren't aiming
No,
for
but I feel you. Well, I think it's in my blood
make it
too.
cohesive, but I think the skits, I don't know, it just works. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Yeah. So that was dope.
Thank you so much.
Got it. All right. So I think that line on Soul Folks Bounce, you know, speaking about, you know, the album itself and kind of what it's supposed to represent, where you say, yo, it's dot diggity dot dev, the cartoon fanatical sporadically associating things into a song. That line sums up pretty much what you're getting at lyrically on the album. You know, as I like when I heard it, I was like, oh yeah, he's pretty much given the definition. So I wanted to, you know, kind of reference that for you as well. But I have to ask, even with the sporadic rhymes, is there a method to the randomness? And if so, like how do you explain it?
Well, I think something that I have trouble with is I'll sit down to write and I don't know how to start a verse. So like starting a verse is always hard for me. So what I always end up doing is saying something extremely random because I don't know how to like start a verse that has anything to do with what I want to rap about. Like I can only really think of bars that are topical if it's like in the middle of something. I never know how to kick it off. So that's kind of where that sort of modality comes from, just me being like, it's dot diggity dot dev, like I'm the cartoon fanatical. And then yeah, like so it always starts there, just saying something random, seeing what that leads me to, and just for real playing word association. I love little word association things, and I love when a word sounds like a different word that means something else, and or like they sound the same but they mean different things, or like
Right,
you know what I mean, like stuff like that, like and just trying to make connections that are like uncharted territory. Like that's a big thing for me, you know, like I want to take two things that no one's ever brought into the same room together. I want to bring those things into the same room together.
Definitely got it. What inspired you to try to title track 6 after the animated character Danny Phantom?
Oh, that's actually a perfect example because I felt like I felt like I had made like a 100 IQ like genius move when I wrote that bar that's like, I'm gonna let it free like Butterfree when she goes ghosts Ash, and then there's a pause, and then I just say Danny Phantom because I'm basically what I'm saying is like I'm gonna go crazy. I'm gonna like let it free like Ash when like he lets Butterfree go. But I recontextualize that as like Butterfree ghosting Ash, like on like, you know, like when like you ghost somebody and like, you know, text them back or something. So like I'm recontextualizing that as Butterfree ghosting Ash, like go ghosting Ash. And when Danny Phantom turns into a ghost, he says go ghost. So I was like, okay, Butterfree when she goes ghost Ash, and then I just pause, give a moment to think, and I'm like, Danny Phantom. That made me laugh so hard. I felt like a genius when I wrote that. So
and talking about like when you're able to actually mention Danny Phantom on the track, it works so well. Like you it almost sounds like you wrote that as part of like the hook, but just knowing how the album was recorded, it makes it even more dope how it comes across, because it's like it's one of those sayings on the album, or one of those phrases on the album that you kind of just remember, like like the way you like the repeating of the Danny Phantom, you remember it. So I thought that was clever how you were able to weave it in a memorable way on the album.
Thank you.
So you also say on that song, you will never turn into a rapper, self-deprecate. What made you come to that stance?
Oh, well, that's something that I sort of heeded and learned from, being under Rory's wing, like that when you're rapping stuff and you're saying things that are self-deprecating to yourself in a bar, you're getting the crowd to say that, and they're saying it about themselves. And like, I don't want to be the rapper that makes other people feel like they suck because I'm on stage saying that I suck. You know what I mean? So that's where that comes from. That's not kind of what I'm spitting about. It's like, I don't want to be this person that's getting a whole crowd of people to chant like I suck and I'm like a loser, like, because that's not how I want music to make people feel. So I'm not even going to go down that path. I'm not even going to go there.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that is something that I've heard a lot of rappers say at shows, so that's interesting. And you said Rory inspired that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Wow, dope. So you say repeatedly on track 10 that you're the only rapper who knows Zay Frank.
Yeah.
Like, for people that might not know, who is Zay Frank, and why was it important for you to emphasize that in the song?
So I wrote that song as like a love letter to the media that I mostly grew up consuming, which is like early YouTube media. I think by the time I was 13, I was not watching normal TV anymore. I was watching YouTube videos from all these different random people. And I was very plugged into that world at a very young age and all these different creators. And in my mind, I would cite the first like community oriented YouTuber as this guy, Zay Frank. And basically he would just make these little vlog videos and he would talk to the camera, and then people would comment, and then he would make another video and he'd like, respond to certain comments, or he'd talk about a letter that somebody sent him. And he garnered a really active community very early on. Like, this is pre, celebrity on the internet, like really, really, really early on. Like, he was the foundation that like every YouTube celebrity is on top of. Like, I feel like Zay Frank and a few other people, but I would say Zay Frank mainly is like the true foundation of that sort of world. And to be honest, when it comes to the Epic Club and everything I try to do with that project, I really do model it after his work with his shows on YouTube, and I study his philosophy on the internet, and I think it's very interesting. He has this TED Talk where he talks about how, and this is in like 2009, he has this TED Talk about how people are criticizing that folks are like staring at their phones too much. Like the iPhone just came out and folks are like, people are going crazy, addicted to their phones. And he sort of posits this idea that like, well, actually, they're living life in there. Like when they make a connection with a human on their phone, who cares if it's on the phone? Like some people can't make human connections in real life, face to face, the same way that they feel comfortable making those connections online. And if it's genuine, who's to say that's wrong? Especially if it's genuine. Like, I know there's evil on the internet too, but there's just as much love as there is evil on the internet, is basically what I'm trying to get at.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I felt like it was important for me to honor him on this album that is about a community that I created the album's not about it, but it was spawned by this club and this fun activity that I had began doing on the internet. And yeah, I just, and it also goes back to this idea of referencing things, rapping about things that I don't think anyone's ever rapped about. You know, there's no other rap song about this guy because he's just people don't know who he is in that way. So I just felt like I had to honor him, and all the other YouTubers I reference on that track are, you know, people that influenced like my humor, how I came up, even my humor today too. Like towards the end, I rap about YouTubers that are fairly new, you know. So it kind of like spans this whole other world of influence that I take from that I don't get to talk about or rap about very often.
Yeah. And I think, you know, you mentioning him in that way on the song intrigues the listener to want to go find out more about who he is, right?
Mhm.
Just to learn.
And, yeah, and I would love for people to do that, which is honestly why I added the next track. An Invocation for Beginnings was written by Zay Frank. I'm performing a piece that Zay Frank wrote in
Wow.
in that track. Yes.
I'm so glad you prefaced with that because I was getting ready to go right into that. So let's talk about that. There's a few lines. Well, let me just say that, first of all, An Invocation for Beginnings is a powerful display of poetry.
Mm.
Zay Frank. So I want to talk about a few lines that really stand out. Like the whole thing stands out, but I want to, just highlight them. The first one is, this is an invocation for anyone who hasn't begun, who's stuck in a terrible place between 0 and 1. Let me realize that my past failures at follow through are no indication of my future performance. And then the other line is, let me think about the people that I care about the most and how when they fail or disappoint me, I still love them. I still give them chances and I still see the best in them. Let me extend that generosity to myself.
Mm.
Now, of course, there's other things that are a part of this poem, but I thought it was dope that you highlighted this poem, and like I said, those two lines really stood out. And I was just curious to know, like, what was it about this poem, especially those two quotes that I just gave, that made you feel like, you know what, I want to close the album with this? Like, what was the intention for the listener to get?
So in my brain, the way that I organize my records is Born on the Stairs, uh, Andre's Gift, and Giraffe Track are part of a like trilogy in era. Those are the three records that I um, worked on. They're kind of in their own little bubble, and I would say Epic is like the beginning of a new era for me, a new chapter of my career and of my life, and for many different reasons. So when I was putting it together, I was returning to An Invocation for Beginnings because that piece came out 12 years ago.
Mm.
And the story behind it is that Zay Frank was a YouTuber very early on YouTube in like 2007, right when it became a platform. He did his main show that he did, and then he finished it. And he was offline for a long time. He did TED Talks, he traveled the world, he wrote books, and he did other stuff, right? And then in 2000, and I want to say, yeah, 2010, late 2009, he came back to do another show. And that was the first video he put out, was An Invocation for Beginnings. That was the beginning of his new show. And it was just a video of him reading off that piece, like just looking at the camera, reading it.
Wow.
And it has always been extremely inspiring to me since the first time I heard it back then to now. I return to it very often because it just gets me fired up. It just gets me super fired up. It makes me feel like an artist. It makes me feel like, I don't know. It just gets the gears moving,
Mm.
And again, I wanted to mark the beginning of this new chapter of my work and my career and my life with something that I find very powerful. And I've sent it to so many of my friends and family over the years, and I've been like, listen to this, like, you got to hear this, and I never know if they actually do or, whatever. Like, people, sometimes they do, whatever. But I thought, if I perform it, if I recite it, I won't only be honoring Zay himself, but I will be giving people who maybe aren't going to hear this any other way, like they're going to hear me say, like they're going to hear me spit it, because I think it's extremely powerful. I think it's extremely special. And I'm just honored to have it be part of the record. And he did hear it. Zay Frank, I know he heard it because I think people were tweeting at him, and he was like, "Cool." So I got like the okay from Zay. Like, yeah. So it's all love, and I'm just stoked that it's part of it, and it's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's, the part where you say, where you reference who, that the invocation is for anyone who hasn't begun, who's stuck in that terrible place between 0 and 1. That's a deep line right there, 'cause
Mm,
so many people, they have these aspirations and these dreams and these things that they want to achieve, but they just can't seem to get it off the ground.
mm-hmm,
And I feel for people like that, because it's kind of like you have this purpose or this mission that you're here to live out. And for whatever reason, so I think when I heard that, it just served as some kind of relational inspiration to people that might be going through that.
mm-hmm.
Would you say that that this poem, maybe not all of it, but elements of it, have been experiences in your life as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially the part about, Facebook, and I will not hit up that Facebook like it's a crack pipe. I keep the browser closed.
Yeah,
Like,
great.
that whole bit is like speaks very loud to me. Um, I'm a big proponent of social media, and it's its power for good, but I do recognize that it's manipulative, and the way that it's designed is it's designed in a way to give us you know this crippling fear of missing out, and I recognize that, and I think it's something that I have trouble dealing with. So when I hear this piece, that's one of the parts that really sticks out to me, is like, I really got to make sure I'm moderating my how much stake I put into these apps.
It makes sense. Makes sense. Wow, Naval, thank you so much for taking the time to
Yeah.
talk with me today. This has been a very, very interesting experience. And I think hearing what you have to say about this album makes me even more intrigued to go back and listen to it. And I think a lot of the questions that I had for you, I kind of, not a lot, but some of the questions I had for you, I kind of figured that's what it was as well. But having you kind of like confirm it
Mm.
makes it even dope as well. So thank you, man. So what would you say is next for you? I mean, I know you put out a record earlier this year, and you put this one out in August. Is there anything else? And it doesn't have to be another album, but like, what is the objective with this project, and as far as your music for the rest of the year? Because we're like literally down to the end of the year.
True. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna go on tour
Okay.
at the end of this month. I'm hitting some East Coast dates, Boston, New York, Philly. We're doing Connecticut, Rhode Island, Virginia. Um,
East Coast.
East Coast, a little East Coast tour, dipping my feet in the water of that again, and um, I'll be making some trips to LA with the Ruby Yacht to do some more artist work, and I've been getting a little bit into writing. script writing. I'm kind of dipping my toes into various things. Production for like other people. I'm trying to send some people beats and um, take that back seat to an album in a way, and just different, collaborations, experimentations.
Got it. Got it. Like, it's so interesting that you talk about going on tour. And when you listen to this album, Epic, it feels like it was, it was recorded on tour, right? So how does the experience of Epic live differently on tour when it already sounds like you're performing live?
I think that is the power of Epic, because I now have this whole album front to back. I have it memorized. So I can just go play a show and just play the album front to back. And that's it. That's what I do. And like, I can just do that without stopping. And just that's my whole time is me playing Epic, Yeah. So I'm looking forward to just doing that for like 7 days in a row. It's gonna be great.
Are there like any elements that you would like to add on to the stage show that people wouldn't get particularly listening to the album outside of it just being a live show? Like, are there like any like, tricks that you go, like things that you want to make the show more interactive?
Yeah, I love to do stuff like that. Like, I haven't really thought of what I'll do, but I'm always doing stuff like that. Like, I used to do this joke. at the end of my shows where I would play that song from The Breakfast Club at the end. And then I'd be like, I would just say some shit like, oh man, it's been crazy that we were in detention for this song. Let's get out of here. And I'd play the song and like leave.
It's like a random end too, right? To the show. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got it. Listen, man, thank you so much for taking the time and building with us. The new project is out. It's called Epic, and also folks out there, go check out the Pink Pound album that came out earlier this year. So I got music that I got to go back in the catalog and check for. And man, like your music is definitely something that intrigues the listener, man. If they have the willingness to give it the listen. So it's definitely out the box, but I like your creative approach too. So definitely, man. So for all of our listeners, I want to thank y'all as well. Make sure y'all go to the website outtheboxmedia.com. Navel, do you want to tell people where they can find find you? Is there like a website you want to shout out, or like your social media platforms where they can keep with you?
Yeah, just go to epicclub.dev. EPICCLUB.DEV. That's my shit. You'll find everything there.
Epicclub.dev. All right. So yeah, that's where you can find all things Pink Navel related. And it has like the list of the tours. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting for a lot of the people out here on the East Coast to go catch that. Who are some of the people on the tour?
For New York, we're playing with Akai Solo and Rad Band. My homie Bass Ness is coming with me on tour. We got Fat Boy in New Jersey. I'm playing with Alfred out in Virginia. Shout out Alfred. It's gonna be a whole time. I'm excited.
That's gonna be an interesting show, man. Shout out to Akai Solo and Fat Boy Sharif, who we've had. Well, yep. Word up. And you gonna be meeting with Rory out west too, right?
Oh yeah, that comes in a few months. But the whole crew's meeting out there. We got some shit planned. So
dope. All right, so yeah, man, keep connected with Pink Navel. And stay connected with us, outtheboxmedia.com. Make sure y'all go to that website. If you are not a subscriber yet, just to be connected to our mailing list, make sure you go to outtheboxmedia.com and subscribe by hitting that subscribe tab. So all of our listeners and viewers, I want to thank y'all again. We will be back next week for another episode. Next week, we're going to have episode 90, Dev. We get 90 coming up. So I'm excited. I can't wait till I get to 100. So it's counting down. And until next time, I just want to say peace, love, and light. Everyone stay safe, stay focused, stay healthy. We are out of here. Peace.
Much love. Peace.